Good evening, everyone. This is Paul, and this is my best friend Andy, aka engineer4God, and we're here to do another joint video game review of another relatively little-known DS game known as Radiant Historia. Now, I never actually played it. He just beat it, so he's gonna basically review the game for me, and I'm gonna be here to moderate the process. So first off, would you like to tell the audience what the general gist is of, like, the concept of Radiant Historia and what makes it unique as an RPG?
Yeah, so the concept is that the main character named Stock gets this book called the White Chronicle, and it has the power to let him travel back in time to a previous moment. So how it works is that he can't travel to any time in any place. He can only travel back to a time and a place that he was at in his own past. And if some if other people die, he can go back in time and rewind it and to save them. But if he dies, then he can't.
Right. So it basically has to be like the Groundhog Day syndrome, but without the electrocute yourself in the bathtub and get revived thing.
And there's one point in the game where there's the timeline breaks in two because you can either choose to go with Stock's best friend Roche, who's he's gonna be like the leader of an army, or you can stay working as in what they call specinct, which is basically like being a secret agent, which is what Stock was doing at the beginning under a guy named Heiss. So you choose whether you're gonna stay working for Heiss or whether you're gonna join the Roche Brigade, and depending on the decision, it creates two timelines, and you have to constantly you'll be going down one timeline, and then something will happen that you won't be able to proceed unless you go to the other timeline and find something else out in that one. And there are times where you actually do have to rewind time and go back to a previous moment to change a past event.
So what's the general gameplay mechanic? Is it a turn-based RPG, random battles, anything like that?
It's a turn-based RPG, but not random battles.
So you can actually see the enemies on the field.
It's like, if you've ever played Paper Mario, it's similar to that, where Mario would have a hammer, and if you hit them by the first strike, then you get advantage. Well, this is similar. Stock has a sword that you can slash, and you can knock enemies so they're unconscious. And then if you go into battle when they're unconscious, then you get a bunch of turns first. And of course, if they sneak up on you, then it's a surprise attack, and they hurt you a lot before you can attack. If you just go into battle normally, then the enemies will just get a couple attacks, and then it'll be your turn.
So how exactly is the DS dual screen usage? Would you say that it's done well, or is it kind of gimmicky?
Well, I mean,
because you actually played it on the regular DS, didn't you?
Yeah, and you don't need the touch screen at all. You can just use the buttons. So it's not really, I mean, it could have been on the Game Boy Advance, I mean, it pretty much could have been on any system.
So basically, graphically, it looked terrible?
No, I didn't say graphically looked terrible. I'm just saying that the controls are such that you don't really need a stylus.
Right. So, what about the difficulty level? Would you say that it's more geared towards hardcore RPG players, or would you say it's more like newbie friendly, like Paper Mario was?
I think it's more newbie friendly because in the battles, if people die, then you can always revive them. There's magic spells that you can instantly revive someone, and there's also items that can do that as well. And then if you the only way that you get a game over is if everyone in your party dies, and you can only have 3 people fighting at one time. So yeah, you have to choose who you want in your party so that when you get into a battle, you'll be with those 3 people. And Stock always has to be in. So.
Right, so that essentially kind of limits your options in a manner of speaking.
Yeah, so if you play, you better be sure to upgrade Stock because he's well, I mean, you don't really even have to worry about upgrading because even the people that aren't fighting with you currently but are still in your party gain experience.
So unlike Fire Emblem, some guy can be snoozing at the barracks the whole time and he'll still get paid for it.
Well, they have to be in your party though, because there's different time events where it's okay, such and such person has left your party, such and such person has joined your party.
Oh, okay, I
So
see.
they have to be in your party, but they don't have to be actually fighting in the battle.
So what about production values? Like, did you find yourself impressed by like the graphics or the music or the acting? Is there voice acting?
No.
Okay, what did you think about the music and the graphics and the writing then?
Well, I liked the music, although there's a limited supply of songs.
Well, that
So
stinks. Why
so
do
you
DS games always have to have such little music?
so yeah, like constantly the same songs are being replayed all the time.
Is it more symphonic or how would you describe the overall music style?
Um, I guess it's more like um I guess it is more symphonic sounding, but it's not like real instruments.
Right, because the one DS game that tried to do that was a Japanese exclusive, and the card actually had to be twice as big as a normal DS card just to fit it on there. Although Layton and the Unknown Future did that, and they didn't need to expand the
Mm-hmm.
card.
But I mean, for what the music was, I actually enjoyed the songs, even though there's a limited supply, and it it gave the feelings. Like there's one song um that is like a sorrowful song,
So it
and
really
there's like a
conveyed
song, yeah,
it
and
conveyed the emotions of the
yeah,
moment.
and then there's a song for each of the cities that are in the game, and and of course there's the battle tunes. There's not really too many of them, but there's
Yeah.
like there's pretty much just like a normal battle music, a hardcore battle, and then like a really hard battle music, and then of course there's the final battle music, which has this is its own. But
Now, I know you and I have vastly different opinions on graphics, but overall, how would you describe the graphic style of the game?
I mean it was decent. I mean it it was one of those things where sort of like with Fire Emblem, where when you're in top down view, like all the characters look like you can't really make out their features that much, but then they have like the cutouts of like how the characters look, and
So there's no animated cutscenes or anything like that?
no.
So it's pretty bare bones in terms of like how the story is presented then.
Yeah.
But would you say it's a good story though? That's worth pursuing?
Yeah, I mean I guess it's a decent story. I mean, um I guess it's kind of like pretty much the same stereotypical message that usually you find in like RPGs and like, Japanese, like the classic Japanese like values, I guess.
Yeah, we know too much of those.
So I mean it's pretty much like the same concept, like I mean the concept of like the world, the universe has to be in balance, like with energy and stuff, and
Yeah.
the typical things.
So, two last questions to try to keep this under 10 minutes. So, first off, replayability. Do you find yourself ever wanting to replay the game, or do you think RPG enthusiasts would have a reason to come back after they beat it?
Well, I mean, there is a timeline map where it shows you like little pieces of paper for side quests. So if you talk to someone and they say, "Hey, can you help me find this thing in this country?" Um, then and if you say yes, then it adds it um to your timeline, and you can say you'll be able to say, okay, in this timeline it's like this, and then if you complete a side quest, it'll give you a star. And then also in the lower left hand corner, there's a number count of like how many things you've completed versus how many you can complete. So it kind of gives you a bar to be like, oh yeah, if you're a completionist, then you'll want to do everything
Huh.
because you'll do all 182 of the 182 tasks. So I mean, whenever a new event is added to the timeline, that makes the number go up as well. So
So, overall, did you enjoy the game?
yeah, I did.
Now, this game is stupid hard to find. I only barely was able to get it for him as like a present, so I guess, is it worth like all that effort that I spent tracking it down, or do you think most people probably would want to skip it?
I think it's worth the play. I mean, it's a very interesting concept. I mean, um, It's also one of those games where I'm not gonna tell you how many chapters it has, because it's like I couldn't have guessed when the game was gonna end.
Yeah, I would hope you didn't, because this is a spoiler-free channel.
Yeah, it's one of those games where it's like, when is this game gonna end? It seems like it's so long, and you don't know how many chapters there are gonna be.
So, in other words, it has a lot to keep players going.
Yeah.
It's not just one of those blink and you're done type of games.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. Well, thank you very much for listening to Andy talk about the game. He hardly had any negative things to say about the game, and when you hear that, it means that it's definitely worth a play, even if it's not like the height of spectacular like The World Ends With You. So, with that, oh dear, glitchy. With that, we are going to close with catchphrases, and he actually has one this time. So, Andy?
Pray more, sleep less.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace, and don't fall into the Didymar hole.
And in my case, keep the faith, stay epic, and God bless. Bye.